Welcome back to the Forex Fortress, and plenty to talk about today as we prepare for the weekly closures on all major US dollar pairings, plus a little bit of Bitcoin follow-up as well. So today, as always, on a Friday, is going to be less about short-term timeframes and more about the weekly closures. And with that said, we'll start off with good old Dixie over here, of which, as we put on our drawing tools, we are still bouncing off that $92 region, of which I still do look at this as a macro bottoming area. And as long as that area does hold, I am looking at this as likely to produce a reversal probably over the next few months. And if we were to go down to the very low term time frames, if you put a gun to my head, said crown, look at this shit or die, I'd be looking for it to likely come back down somewhere around about 92.5, maybe even a little bit lower than that. It can grind out this area for quite some time. It's completely fine, but as long as we don't get any closures below about 92 bucks on a weekly, then I would still be looking at this as likely to kind of just grind its way out and then float onwards and upwards over the next few months. So with that in mind, let's go over here to Aussie dollar, and what do we see on short-term time frames? Even though I said I wouldn't really be looking too much at them, we did hit our target from yesterday right around 92, or sorry, not 92, 72 and a half, a little bit lower than that. Actually did overshoot it by a good margin down to 72 and a quarter. Not bad, but as we prepare for the daily and weekly, is there anything of interest right here on the daily? Not anything too obvious. If anything, I'd actually be looking for maybe a little bit further south action down below about 72 cent even, but it's a weekly that's going to really set this one up. And here's what I feel a lot more comfortable saying, especially with Friday, we only get one weekly close per week, of course, and any sort of a closure below the 200 simple, which is basically that 72.5 cent region, and I'd be looking for next week to test back down a little bit south of 72 cents, and then we'll come back to it after that. Perhaps a little bit of a short-term time frame bounce around there, but again, want to see the weekly closure, as typically Friday is just a setup day, really. Looking at CAD dollar over here, we are all, oh my god, the CAD dollar playing off our charts lovingly this week. Hit our long-term upside target. Now coming back down below the 200 exponential average. If we do close anywhere below the 200 exponential average, I would extend this move coming into next week somewhere around about 75 region. I'm curious what the daily looks like here as well. Yeah, a little bit of downside pressure here as well, but I would be looking for a bounce off that 75 region at the same time. So with that in mind, again, very strong look at the weekly over here, of which I really want to see it actually officially close below the 200 exponential average to drive those targets lower. Oh, I should also say, I was planning on doing a Twitch stream today. I still might, but I'm actually feeling pretty shitty myself. I think I might be getting sick, and I can actually, I don't know if you can hear that in the room across the apartment here, but it sounds like Elsa's pretty sick as well. So, not good, man, not good at all. And I can start to slowly feel my voice fade, which is not a good sign, man. Anyways, moving on to Swiss franc dollar. What do we see here? Very similar charts in a lot of ways, but what about the daily just before we get into it? Yeah, I still don't have a strong opinion on this one. I believe that we did call a move back up towards about 110 yesterday. Didn't quite get there, about 109 and a half region, but I still stick with that. I don't have a strong opinion on the short-term time frames right here, even a daily. In fact, if I am going down to a very short-term time frame, like a 4-hour, no, I'd say that target has been front ran, and I'd be looking for a move back down below about 109, somewhere around about 108 and an 80-ish region. Looking at the weekly closure, of course, this is going to be very interesting here because there's not really an obvious trade as it stands right now. I mean, there's a little bit of bearish divergence right here, yes, and momentum oscillators are going to start to be pointed southwards, but I really want to see an actual break of a relevant level, and that would still be about the 108.5 region on a weekly closure. If that can happen, then I would be happy to target much lower, actually down around about 106.5 and perhaps more over time. But for right now, I really want to see the weekly closure. If it is anywhere above 108.5, does make it a little bit difficult to get immediately bearish. However, next week should be an actual setup, and again, short term on this one, actually I do have a bit of a bias here. Yes, I would be looking for this one to head a little bit further south, like I said, about just a little bit south of 109. All right, what else we got? We got euro pound right here, a little bit of an anemic bounce, as you might guess, and I believe yesterday we were looking for a move up to about 90 cents, or were we? Okay, we were on this dildo right here. I forget exactly what we said about this one yesterday, to be fair. Weekly, though, yes, the weekly is the one that I do look to trudge further south over time. Now, to be fair, this one is a little bit weird over the long period of time. I'm not really getting too much from this chart. It's, technically it's an uptrend, but it's also very flaky and floaty here. I really don't like charts like this long term. If I'm going to be looking at short-term time frame analysis, what would I be looking at right here? I'd probably be looking for this one to come back down. We do see a little bit of hidden bearish divergence, and I'd probably be looking for a short-term move back down around about 89 cents region. region. But depending upon the way that the weekly actually does close, I wouldn't be willing to be calling a a bounce coming into next week or further continuation south into next week as well. I do think that I need to see this one in real time next week because I don't have a strong read on the higher term time frames. This one's still a little bit bizarre looking to me here. If anything, I'd actually be looking more north, back up towards maybe even 91 cent next weekend, or sorry, about 90.5 cent next week. But again, don't really feel that great about this one. Short term, however, a little bit of downside, yes. Anyways, moving on, what do we got for euro dollar? Euro dollar kind of doing the same thing as a lot of the other ones, putting in a lot of time at the highs right here, but focusing on the weekly as we are getting ever so close to that weekly closure. Again, not really getting too much from this. If I do see any sort of a closure below the 10 simple right here, it would be an easy target down towards around a little bit south of 117 coming into next week. Closing above doesn't really do all that much for me, and of course the only way for me to really get like super bullish on this one, targeting moves actually significantly higher towards about 121 and maybe even 1.25 over time. I do want to see weekly closure above just north of 119.1. If that would happen, then that would make it a lot more easy. But for right now, with only 9 hours and 46 minutes and 24 seconds left to go in the trading day, I'd probably be looking for this one to trade just a little bit sideways. And if I am looking at the short-term time frames, what do you make of this? What do you make of this? What do you make of this? Yeah, I'd probably be looking for a little bit of downside action here too. 117 and in a third, or sorry, what was that? 117 and in 3/4 actually. Sorry about that. 117 and 3/4 short term. Pound yen, my favorite little shitcoin. And what do we got here? I'm still looking at the weekly, likely put in a major top once again. This thing is my favorite little shitcoin to trade, of course. And short term, what would be looking at here? I actually did take a nice little trade on this one earlier today. It was quite fun indeed. If I had to call this one, I'd actually be looking for it to give a little bit more of a try to the upside on the short-term time frames, maybe back around about 139 even. But looking at the daily and looking at the weekly, I'm bearish on this one long term. So make no mistake about it. Short term does not equal a long term. Looking at pound dollar right here, what do we got? Yes, yet again another rejection alongside the long term trend line governing our highs ever since, what is this, April 2018? So almost about a 2.5 year trend line by now. And any sort of a closure below the 200 exponential average today would make things a lot easier, driving targets back down towards about 129.5 coming into the next coming weeks. However, short term, I'd actually be looking down from this one as well, probably coming back down towards 130-ish region. 4 hour, what are we looking at right here? Looks like a little bit of a head and shoulders, to be fair. And I think I'll leave it at that. I would remain bearish on this one long term, especially as long as we're below about 132.5 on weekly closures. Yen dollar, what do we see over here? Ooh, this one still holding up, kind of the same area that we looked at yesterday. If anything, I'd probably be looking for this one to test a little bit higher, somewhere around about 95.66, 95.69 region. If I'm looking at the very low term time frames though, sorry, that was referencing the daily. If I'm looking at the 4 hour right here, probably be looking for it to come back down and play around about 94.90 first, and then give another try to the upside. But again, daily and weekly are a bit under pressure because the way that this weekly could be closing would be indicative of, actually no, there is no divergence there, to be fair. All right, well, fair enough. Now, again, another heavy focus on the weekly closure right here, anywhere below 95, and I would be driving targets over the next few weeks, a lot further south, perhaps all the way back down below about 94. But again, this one needs some time. I'm curious what the monthly looks like, just out of curiosity here. It does look a little bit toppy on a monthly as well, so fair enough. I'm having a difficult time on the long term on this one, and am I wrong in the 4 hour here too? I very well could be. Short, no, yeah, I am going to be wrong in the short term. This one's more likely to move to the upside. 95, what was it, 66 or something? 95 and yeah, just a little bit above 60, anywhere between 95.60 and 95.70. Okay, what else have we got? NASDAQ, following up on NASDAQ once again. I didn't really have a strong read on this on the short-term timeframes. I believe there's no call this morning, but the weekly still of humongous importance here. Any sort of a closure above 12,000, I'm looking for new all-time highs coming into next week. Any sort of a closure below there, not a death sentence in and of itself, but I just want to come back and see it next week. So again, 12,000, the big bad area on this one. What else we got? We got some gold action over here. What do we see? Are we going to try another bounce off the 21? Probably yes. Short term preps back up to about 18.95. I feel like I've been saying that move the whole fucking week, and you can see we've just been kind of playing in a very short term time frame range right around here, and I'd still hang on to that. Yes, I do think that it pops back up short term somewhere around 1985 to 1900-ish region. However, long term, I do think that this one has more downside to go, probably somewhere right around about 1800. So make no mistake about it. And looking at the weekly, again, not really getting too much from this one. But if it does close above 1900 today, probably would be looking for that move to extend a little bit more coming into next week as well. Anyways, Mr. Bitcoin, following up on him, and the big things here. Actually, first off, let's go through the low term time frames. Why not? Are we getting anything off this right now? We have a little bit of bearish divergence going on right here. However, I think that move is likely already played out. I mean, if you're hindsight trading this one, you took a short right here, although it did bounce back up to about 16,400-ish region. So let's just cut it to the middle and be a little bit reserved here and say 16,350. That you got the move all the way down to about 1650. About a $300 move right there. Decent, especially seen as this isn't like the craziest divergence call that you've ever seen in your life. The higher that it is, the better. Or what's the saying? It's always lower than you think, right? But I'm curious what my other tools over here would say. I want to bring up the care pack actually on this one and see what the 4 hours is suggesting right now. Whoops, wrong one. Nimbo. There you go. All right, let's see. Actually, checking out this one right here. Jesus, that is a monstrosity of a chart. If anything, I'd be looking for short. By the way, Nimbo, if you're asking for my opinion on this one, I'd be looking for the 2 hour to come back down towards about 32 cents actually. Daily, we can look at it really quickly as well. Whatever this fucking gold miner is. Daily, no bias. If anything, downside, probably back down about 31.5. Anyways, back on to Bitcoin. Let's go on over here. Let's go to the 4 hour and let's see what the 4 hour ranges are looking like right now. Top side of the range actually still about 16,750-ish region. Bottom side of the range would be the breakout area, 15,850-ish region. Not bad. However, I'm still not getting much from this chart to be fair. Let's see, what about the 12 hour right here? Same sort of areas that we've talked to death over this past week. 17, basically upper 16,000, lower $17,000 region. Looking at the buy hourly right here. If I'm looking at the buy hourly right here, actually probably would be looking for this one to bounce back up initially at least. Let's just see. Yeah, problems are obviously going to be had below about 16,000 even, but as long as we're above 16,000 bucks, you know, still give the nod to a slow trudge to the upside. I basically stick with what I've been saying for this past week. You know, I'm generally bullish here as long as that criteria holds once again, as long as Bitcoin is closing 2 hour and 4 hour dildos above the breakout pivot of about 15.8 or 15.850, depending upon how aggressive you want to be. Pretty much one and the same. But more importantly, all of the focus is going to be on this chart over here. Where's my secondary chart? There we are. I see you. And the big focus is going to be on the weekly and 3-day closure, which is coming up today for CMEs, of course, coming in around, I believe, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is in, where's my timer? 9 hours, 49 minutes, and 47 seconds. And as long as we are closing 3-day dildos above the topside Challenger band here, which is 15. Let's just call it 15,700 on the 3-day and on the weekly, which are, by the way, going to close at the same time anyway, so it's kind of redundant, but 15,300-ish region, especially if the 3-day criteria is met, but even if the weekly is met as well, I would be looking for a new high to come into next week. Where does it come in around? The same areas that we've been speaking about on these past prior videos. Anywhere around upper 16,000, lower $17,000 region looks about good. However, I would be extremely cautious within a region like that, as it is kind of fraught with peril, as we discussed in this morning's video. I won't go over the full rigmarole today. I'll just reference you to either the short clip on Twitter that I put up, or just watch the whole video, and it's going to be in there. But fair enough. You know, that would drive my bias coming into next week based off of CMEs. You know, coming into the weekend action, I don't really have a strong opinion on that. I'd imagine that if Bitcoin does close above these pivots, we'd probably be looking at we'd probably be looking at another try to the upside over the weekend if that were to happen as well. Albeit CME is not trading at the same time, so a little bit of a give and go there, to be fair. But I do believe that Bitcoin would, you know, probably does try again to the upside here. You know, the 4 hour trend still your friend, and potentially it's put it in a higher low right now. Again, problems below 16 or basically 15,850. Even 16,000 is probably good enough according to CMEs, and keep in mind that there is about a $100 premium over spot price action on CMEs, so that would be, you know, spot somewhere around about 15.9 or 15,850-ish region. Close enough is close enough as far as I'm concerned, and that would drive my bias coming into next week, not necessarily this weekend, however. there is one other thing that I'd actually really want to talk about here too. What if CMEs actually do close a 3-day dildo below the topside Bollinger Band today? Well, if that were to happen, I'd probably be looking for this pullback to happen sooner rather than later, and I'd probably be a lot more willing to call a top from the levels that we've already seen right around about 16,600-ish region. So, it's still one before the next, of course, but I really want to see what the weekly actually does print, and then we'll come back to it tomorrow once we actually have clarity on the situation, and that's going to help set in the biases coming into next week. Just same shit that we did last week and the week prior than that, and actually the week before that and the week before that. We've been doing this for like the last, couple months, ever since Bitcoin broke out of the $10,000 base right here, and I believe it was September. Yeah, it was September. So fair enough. That's basically all I'll say for now. I'd like to wish you the best once again. Take care, and until next time.